I'm Dean, College of Food and Agriculture. My hobby is to interact with graduate students. So it's out of my hobby I'm here.
That's interesting.
Yes. Research is my passion. I cannot do it. No, I'm doing it. I'm one of the anomaly dean over here who has a startup grant.
Okay.
So I do research. My area of research is animal genomics. So the things that I've worked with is creating gene maps for animals, studying humans and animals, their chromosomes, comparative genomics, evolutionary genetics, and a lot of disease genetics during recent years. Research is a very interesting beast. You've got to hold it by horns to be able to really make a difference. So, my first question to you right away, and I'll be putting you on spot many times. Are you all PhD students? All? No. Okay, why are you here? Do you want to dream of doing a PhD? Maybe once during this life or next life, you never know. But it's good to understand what the heck PhD is, right?
Yes.
It looks good when you write your name and then write PhD, okay? It looks so good. The doctor so-and-so with a PhD, right?
Yeah.
Wake up. Wake up, it needs much more to be able to get there. What's an average life of human being? 75. If I'm very optimistic, I will say 100.
Yeah.
Okay. If I'm less optimistic, I can say 60, around. Okay. So 75. So right. Out of these 75 years, how many years do you typically give to a PhD degree?
5 years.
Okay, good. 5 years. It depends from place to place, and it also depends upon how much effort you put into a PhD. In some countries, it takes 3.5, 4 years. In other countries, it can take up to 7 to 8 years on a routine basis. On a routine basis. The place from where I got my PhD eventually, and eventually is a separate story, I'll not go into it right now, was Sweden. And in Sweden, typically a PhD takes 7 years. Why? Because you get married, because you have babies, and you keep working. No, because you have to produce at least 3 to 4 high quality, high impact publications. So high impact publications is a demand. So it used to take 7 years over there. Okay, can we settle down? Okay, are there more PhD students or non-PhD over here? Those who entered the room just now? PhD, okay. The hardcore has come now, okay?
Yes.
They will tell how interesting a PhD is, okay? But anyway, time is needed. on average 5 years, what is needed most is effort. And what is needed most is the grit inside that I will do it. So let me start by asking of those who are doing a PhD and those who dream of doing a PhD, why the heck do you want to do it? Why? No, that's not the answer. Switch off your phones, please. Switch off your phones.
The feeling of achievements.
Climb a mountain, come on. You will feel that you're on the top of Mount Everest. You've achieved. Achievement in the area, okay.
For me, it's research. I tried to work outside. It was basically routine every day. But here, every time you find different results and you have to look for other possibilities, do different solutions to get the great result. So for me, I chose it because of research.
Because of research, and she is so excited about it. Please, those who are doing PhD, tell her how monotonous a PhD can be.
It's still my second year, so still I don't know what.
Keep dreaming. Keep dreaming. No, that's a good answer. That's a good answer. Anybody else?
Maybe to have a better career.
To have a better career. Yeah. That makes sense. That makes sense. She believes in money, okay? Good. She's running after money. No. After name, after fame, after so many things. No, but you're right. You're right. Anybody else?
This is what that gives you, that feeling of this is where I want to be. Like this is what I want to do all the time. That's in my method. Okay. So I don't know whether this will kill me.
Ask your children some years later. Mine, they told me, what the heck is that place, lab, where you go and bury yourself and you're not visible during 5 days and then you come out of that burrow for 2 days and be visible and then disappear again.
Exactly. My sister already had told me, don't go to your office.
Yeah. My son hated the word lab. And now he is working in a lab.
Sorry for that. Yeah, PhD.
No. No, they already decided that you will bring breakfast for them next time.
I never get it home.
Don't care. We don't worry over here.
I take only tea at breakfast, so you are most welcome.
At least bring tea. Something. Give something.
Correct. Next time we are not coming.
Yeah.
So I'm like, yeah.
That's a bigger fine. Okay. So those who are doing PhD are the ones who will be able to help us out today in this discussion. They will be removing some of the illusions for those who want to do a PhD. But at the end of the day, today, we all will go out and leave this room with a positive mindset that come what may be, this is what we really want to do. We know there are so many obstacles that will be coming. But despite those obstacles, we will be successful. We will be successful. And success is not defined that I get a name or fame or 3 publications or 20 publications. Success is defined by how I can make a difference in others. That's what it is about. Success is about how can I make a difference in the science that I am in? How can I make a difference in the area that I'm working on? And at the end of the day, what kind of impact I can make through my research to humanity? It does not matter what field you come from. That's what matters the most. So what are the most common things that those doing PhD in their beginning year or the first real year or second year or third year, let's say the beginning part, the first and the second year, what are the most difficult things that you really face? Because that's the time which is the most rosy time. I got admission. Finally, I killed the cat. Right? I got admission. I'll also get some money if you get. If you get. So I'm a little bit richer in my pocket, but typically PhD students are very poor. That's a reality. I know it. I know it because there were times when I used to finish my lab work at 11:30 at night, go and do a cleaning job, finish at 1:30, and go back to the lab at 6 o'clock. That was my life, PhD life. So, what are the most difficult things you feel when you start?
Your working plan?
Working plan. Okay, we'll take one by one, okay? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, for me it was like time management.
Time management. Very good.
Because
Time.
it was like a lot of high expectations from the PhD students.
Okay.
Building relationship with advisor. That's the time.
Wow. I think so. That'll come out the most. The more I feed you, not with food but with thoughts. I think so. We'll talk about that because that's a very okay. Who else was there? Yes, sir.
I would have to say finding that balance between your social life, your academic life, and everything else. I mean, you have to keep everyone satisfied, and eventually you will end up not being satisfied yourself. So
The frustration is precipitating, okay? Very good. That's very important. That's very, very important. Another very important issue. There was somebody raising hand over here.
For me, it was like adjusting with all the paperwork and all the requirements and study plans and all the documents I have to submit and all the things I have to do. So every time I wasn't familiar with all the system and university and the things happening around me. So every time I used to get a notification that you didn't submit that one, this one. So I was only familiar with my classes, but the rest of everything was difficult for me.
This is called as the beginner syndrome.
So
A typical beginner syndrome.
But for second year, I'm like, okay, I know now, like, okay, this is what's happening over here. Yeah.
Okay. Now I'm in, I cannot get out.
Yes, I'm proud.
Okay. Anybody else?
There are so many things.
Say it out.
What to do, where to start,
Hmm?
what to do and where to start and why I'm doing.
Why I am doing
Yeah,
this?
that's
That
like
is
the
the
biggest
biggest question.
But that is the question I asked you. Why are you doing a PhD?
At the beginning, you
And the answers that you gave.
We don't love our life, we don't love our family.
One at a time. Yeah.
Not about the PhD, but about the topic that we have to do.
Research topic. Yeah. As you go forward, that's a matter of big concern. But let us start with the basic things. This is quite usual. It's very normal. It's still straightforward and simple because the work is cut out for you right in the beginning. That you will have to fill this paperwork, you will have to take this online course. For example, an ethics course is necessary if you go into a lab and work. Some lab-related courses you have to take. So you have to cross those hurdles, and those hurdles are relatively similar. The fact that you're lost in the beginning and not knowing which direction to take is also very normal. You're a new institution. If you're not going from masters from the same institution to a PhD, that's a very normal thing. Faces are so unfamiliar. You don't know who you should make friends with. You're cautious, you're hesitant, but still keeping an open mind and having a little bit of patience and stopping. That's very important. Stopping when you feel frustrated. Just stop. Pause. And take a deep breath. And get the nearest person close to you and share your difficulty. Of course, the first person to share it with is your advisor. If you have an advisor. I'm sure some of you, when you begin, You don't have an advisor. And there is a good side of it, and there is a bad side of it. The bad side is that you don't feel connected to someone. And that feeling of where do I belong is a very bad feeling. And I can tell you, I can give you an example, my own example, maybe it helps to think. I started my so-called second PhD when I went to Budapest, Hungary. 2.5 months later, after I thought that, okay, I'll work in this guy's lab and try to understand his work. The work was totally new to me. And I suddenly started feeling that, okay, this is the place I have to go every morning. Fine. This is the type of work I need to learn. It is so new to me. It's challenging, but I will learn. And 3 months later in November, I went there in September. 3 months later in November, the guy comes in the morning and says, you know, Banu, I got a fellowship to go to USA. And I'm sorry, I'm leaving.
It happens to me.
Try to find somebody. Now I'm in a country which I don't know. I'm in a country where I cannot speak that language. And Budapest is a huge place. I was totally lost and devastated. Totally lost and devastated. All he gave me was a telephone number that call this guy in Sweden. Maybe one day he will help. But many of us land into these situations and are lost. And I just cannot describe how my next 3 months were. So if any of you is lost for 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and this is a very friendly place, imagine a person lost for 3 months, going from one institution to another, knocking on the doors, asking, can you please take me as a PhD student? 3 months. And the winter months in Europe are gloomy. They are dark, they are overcast, and the sun sets very early, rises up late. My goodness, that can be bad. Here, this is a friendly environment, the place is good, at least you can reach out, there are other people you can talk to. And it's not like, in my case, I was a vegetarian, so food was also not available.
How did you survive?
Yeah, I lost a lot. On top of that, the pressure of, oh my God, how will I do the PhD?
Where I am.
Why am I here? I mean, those are the type of questions that come to me. Why am I here? And also sometimes, I don't know if some of you can relate to it. My goodness, now if I go back to my country, what will my friends say? What will my relatives say?
Yeah.
All those things, they are pressure. So don't lose your how to say, the inner strength. Those are the times when you have to start looking inside and getting up every day, determined that, you know what, there's a problem, but if God has created problem, God has also created solution, and I will work to finding the solution. So don't worry about in the beginning that those are very small things, okay? Those are very small things. But yes, I do also understand that they look so big because at the end of the day, when you are trying to finish things and go back to your room and you sit on a table, try to have a cup of tea, you're thinking, gosh, even this is not done today. How will the tomorrow start? Don't worry, the sun will rise. Don't worry. The sun will rise. You will get up.
Meaning, even if we're planning things, like end of the week, the plan is not going. The plan is done. Yeah. Like we keep planning.
Always remember one thing. If the week finishes and still your work is not done, just go in front of the mirror and raise your hands like that. If you can see yourself like that, you are alive. Okay? You are alive. And if you are alive and your spirit is alive, damn it, you'll get it done. You will start back on Sunday. Here it is Sunday, okay?
Yeah, it's Sunday.
So forget the Monday business now. Sunday, okay? So it is not the end of the world. There are many problems that come in our way. The most important thing is you're not dead. You're still alive. Keep going. And tell yourself all the time, I'll keep going, I'll keep going. This is the demand of a PhD. Why is PhD such a hype? There is a reason for that. It is the terminal degree that is available. It is the final degree that is available. But it is not the final in terms of profession, in terms of your progression, in terms of your future achievements. It is only the foundation. So as much as you try to make that foundation good, a lot has yet to be built. And take those experiences that you get over here as blessings. Thank you very much. Those hardships are very valuable to me because these hardships will shape me how I will move forward in my progression for the PhD as well as in the future career. When I try to look back at the first try of mine for a PhD, I hated my supervisor. I really detested him. What a monster he was, I tell you that. He's not here. Up also he's not there. He was very, very, very demanding. Terribly demanding. He was the type of person who would say, okay, come in the room. So somebody would escort me inside. So I was not even allowed to come by myself. I said, I can walk. No, escort. And then he would sit on his chair, and there were 3 chairs, never offered me a seat. Never. And he would blast me in front of the escort. So it was very humiliating. But when I look back, long story short, I call that person as my godfather. He shaped how I should work. He instilled in me the work ethics. He was the toughest guy, yet the guy who meant always good to me. Or for me. Always. So sometimes we as PhD student might be thinking, oh, that monster. Yes, the person could be a monster, he or she. In the beginning only. There you go. In the beginning only. It took me 10 years, okay? To find that beginning. So the initial problems are, believe me, very minor, because those are small hillocks, not even hills, but hillocks. The real mountain is still to come. And when does the real mountain start coming? When you have the first set of exams at the end of the first semester, then you are nervous typically. You want to make preparations for those exams. You want to make sure your GPA is under control, because if it is under 3, where do you go? Home. You don't want to do that, right? Because the family is waiting to kill you, okay? Not kill literally, but emotionally. So once you are past that, so in that period, take help. Reach out. But don't be dependent all the time. You have to find that right balance between self-thinking, that how should I manage it? That should be your first route to use. When you are stuck, when you're against the wall, you find that you cannot climb that wall, then go for help. Where do you go for help? Who should you reach out?
Supervisor.
Of course, that final God is the supervisor. Of course, go first to the supervisor, because maybe he or she has got immediate solutions to your problems. But other than that, peers. You should always start getting connected with peers right at the beginning. Right in the beginning, it is necessary. And don't keep all the frustration inside, which I'm not telling you, vent out, okay? Please, for God's sake, don't, okay? People will get scared. But share, you know what? You should tell your peers that I'm encountering this problem, and who knows, the person will say, you know what? That happens, that's very normal. It's such a simple thing. Here's a solution. That will definitely help. Another thing that has helped worldwide graduate students is a university-wide graduate association, where there is one meeting every month. The graduate association is run by the students, supported by the Deanship for Graduate Studies. And there everybody meets. There is a seminar. Sometimes there are presentations from the students. And that atmosphere is the right place where you can unwind with things. Okay? That's what you can do. You can unwind with things. But other than that, other than reaching out to the supervisor, other than going to the peers, your friends, others who have joined the PhD program almost at the same time as you have joined, because there are common problems.
Same experience.
Yeah, same experiences others are having. So reach out to them, pick up the phone and immediately say, hey, I'm encountering this. Who else can you go to? If for some reason, other people you go immediately to is your lab group. That is another very good place to go to, because your lab group understands your supervisor also and knows some solutions. That would be the right place to go. If you cannot for some reason find the supervisor and you want an immediate answer to a question or to a difficulty that you are facing, the next person is, of course, the chair of the department. The chair of the department is equally responsible for you as is your supervisor. The last person to go to in a college is the dean. I'm not saying that last person because I'm the dean. No. But go to the dean only when you are totally in a corner. Totally in a corner. And remember one thing. All these people would like to help you. Would like to find solutions. And these solutions can vary from people to people. Some could have problems related to courses. Some could suddenly feel, you know what, I have started, I'm not getting it. And I'm suddenly feeling that some of these courses are heavy on me. And I tell you, one of the courses that really kicks you is advanced statistics. Sounds familiar? How do I know it? Universal global problem. Why is it a global problem? It is a global problem because you are taking advanced steps without taking the foundational steps. Don't feel bad. Take a step back. Always take a step back, because this is so important. You are laying the foundation for your work. Don't jump here without knowing what is happening here. If I were you, I would be shameless. I would tell, I don't know this, I cannot handle this, let me go back and take the foundation course first. No worries. And that is very important in a PhD. If you would try to take jumps, you may not know what is happening in between, and you may not be able to connect to what is needed as the base. Okay? So make sure that you take those courses that are necessary for establishing your base, so that then you can jump up and establish yourself and be confident in whatever you take next. Choice of courses are very typical because there is a almost standard study plan. Are all of you following your study plan?
Yes.
Those who are doing PhDs?
Almost, yeah.
Almost. Okay, so are you religiously following it?
No.
No, how dare you say that? Why should we do that? We are human beings, we have a mind of our own.
It's always tentative plan.
It's always a tentative plan. The difference between undergraduate, master's, and PhD. PhD is a little bit fluid. You have possibilities and choices, and then you build because of those possibilities. But then your supervisor shows that these are the courses you need to take, and you and he or she agree with each other that, okay, I will take these courses as and when they are available. The supervisor tells that this is the best sequence available. You say, okay, fine, I'll take them. You take them or you don't take them, okay? If you don't take them, you might be in a little bit of a hot soup, because the things will not progress as planned. It is very important to have a clear plan for your PhD. And that plan should be developed during your first semester. How many of you who are in their first year, okay, you've just started now, okay? Those who are in their second year, how many of you have or had a plan already prepared? So there is a clear path.
Yeah.
There's a clear path for almost every one of you. Okay, now I come to the main question. How many of you take courses other than what you and the professor agrees? 1, 2, 3. Okay, each one of you tell me why.
I noticed one course under the measure of happiness and well-being
Mhm.
is totally far away from my education college.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I have some personal interest in this field.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to maximize my knowledge in this regard after attending one of the presentation about it. So I was so attracted to it.
Mm-hmm.
A possibility was open. There were no restrictions. Simply they said you can join the course but not registered formally if you want to attend the course as extra course.
Okay.
This was my case.
So I felt that the courses will actually help me for example, I took the biostatistics because I was going to take advanced biostatistics. So that then they are electives and they are done in our college. So I just join them without registering for them. And other courses that I have interest in also.
So for my research area, I needed a few courses. I needed to equip myself with skills like in econometrics, while the university is not allowing me to work across take courses
Across
in another
disciplines.
college. Yeah, so I'll have to. What I'm doing now is actually doing it online from my own money.
From your own money?
Yeah.
Who's the supervisor? No, don't tell me. This is very interesting, you know. Somebody wants to do it. These are elective, okay? Yours is definitely elective.
Extra course.
Yes. Do it. It is good. Sometimes what we do in PhD that we become so narrow. You know the blinders on the horses?
Yeah.
And you keep running straight. That's not what PhD is about. PhD is start broadening your horizon. Because in undergraduate, you were so tight. In masters, you expanded the base a little bit. In PhD, you cannot be like this. You have to expand your horizon. Some of us, when we join PhD, we are so much dependent on our supervisor that the supervisor says this, I will do it. I will follow the orders. But trust me, this is not an army base. This is an opportunity for you to become critical thinkers. As much as you agree with your supervisor, and you should be thinking yourself, you should be active, you should be creative, you should know what you want. And you should know what courses add value to you, what courses broaden your horizon. And I challenge all of you that if you take only those courses that are written in that catalog or in that study plan, the chances of you being really successful in the future goes down. The beauty of my professor was, I'll take it just a second. The beauty of my professor was, when I went to him, in Sweden there's no study plan, okay? There's no structured that you have to take courses. When I went to my professor, he said, okay, start your PhD. I said, okay. And starting PhD over there is go to the lab. And I know in some of you don't have labs for your discipline, but research is still an integral part of PhD. So I told him that, okay, what courses should I take? And he gave me a book. And I was very happy that he's so helpful. He gave me something to look at, and I'll pick courses. I went to my room and I started opening it, 400 pages of courses, which had almost 925 courses. I said, oh my God, I mean, I'm sure he has marked them somewhere that take these courses, page after page, turning it, not a single course marked. And I was like, oh my God, will I be able to do this? And going through, I mean, it was an array of courses in at least 20 different disciplines. I went back to him and I said, you know what, probably you forgot to mark the courses. He said, no. It's your PhD. You decide what you want to learn. I said, okay. I went back and I threw away that book and I just sat down and started thinking. Long story short, I started thinking. So in about 1 month, I came to realize I will be doing these experiments, and these are the type of courses I really need to take. And my goodness, the whole way of thinking and the perception and the confidence that started developing in me about my PhD and my sense of belonging to the PhD, my connection to it, that this is my baby, I need to really take care of it, suddenly quadrupled. And then I went to him and I said, you know what, there's a course like this in Norway, I want to take it. He didn't even look at it and said, go. I went, took that course for 1 month, came back, applied some of the things I learned over there in my PhD, used them. And this is how I started taking charge. His philosophy was, you want to do PhD with me? And this is what he used to say, I'll kick you in the corner. You come to me and want to do a PhD, I'll kick you in the corner. If you try to get up, I'll press you down. If you try to further get up, I'll make sure that I use a stick to pull you down.
Interesting.
You should have the ability to get up and become something. I will not help you. And he literally did that the 3.5 years I did PhD with him. He always questioned. I said, at least for one time, give me an answer. And unfortunately, I have become the type of person that I don't give answer.
So you can blame her now.
So I can tell you a small little example that my son was studying trigonometry. I don't know anything about trigonometry. And there was something connected between trigonometry and physics. Physics was one of the subjects I hated. Because I was so bad in physics. I mean, my 9th grade teacher just ticked me off after 5 classes. And me and physics, they were like this way apart. So my son came.
Physics.
My son came in grade 8 and started asking me some questions. I said, oh my God, no, come on. But I kept a brave face and used the same tactic of asking questions. And he was looking at me, oh, Dad is asking questions, okay. Then he answered. From that answer, I picked another question and I asked one more. So 6, 7 questions later, boy, he was smart. He found the answer. And I felt so good. But I revealed, he's a doctor now. He had his degree in physics and in biochemistry and then became a doctor. He's a radiologist today. And he always says, so Dad, your area of expertise, isn't it physics and trigonometry? I said, yeah, of course. So many times you will find your PhD supervisor acting like that. I tell you, many times he does not know things also. Okay. Take that as a blessing. I tell you, this is my experience. Take that as a blessing. I came to know about my supervisor that he knew nothing about my subject within 6 months. First I was angry, but then I said, you know what? I'm independent now. This is a battle I will fight. And that fighting spirit is very important in a PhD. And that fighting spirit should come as soon as possible because it is necessary, okay? Because there are many times you will face difficulties, and when you have those difficulties, you have to get up and say, I'll take it. And when my supervisor said that, okay, do it all yourself, I was happy because who was running the show after that for PhD? I was running myself. Yeah. And when I was running myself, I was doing everything possible to make it good. I was trying to make sure that it is decorated properly. I want to make it star-studded. And every one of you should make every effort, because whenever you will submit your CV in the future, as you progress in your career, people will look at your PhD. That's it. They will not look where your undergraduate was, unless it was Harvard or somewhere, but they will look at your PhD title and they will really see what comes out from that. Typically, when they go to the CV and look at the publications, the two connections, they are picked up like that. So don't worry if your supervisor is not very participatory. This is a very common problem. PhD students come and say, you know what, my supervisor is not helping me. Hey, you don't need help. You're a PhD student. Grow up. Do things yourself. And when can you do it? I had this philosophy in my mind. Stay, and I've said this thing to some of you in my previous workshop. Stay 2 steps ahead of your supervisor. Write it somewhere in front of your table. I have to stay 2 steps ahead of my supervisor, not in walking, but in thinking, okay? How do you do that?
Read more.
Stay up to
Read more.
What more? What would you do?
Think.
There's interesting supervisor thinking.
Read what?
On the subject. On what is new on the subject.
update, stay more updated, I think. For my field, it worked actually.
Articles. Articles related to your work. And when you are reading articles, they should not be directly 100% related. When I say broaden your horizon, you should read articles here, there, and everywhere. Read articles. You should read at least 2 articles every day. So 365 times 4
Reading means
times
only
2. How many articles am I talking about? A couple of thousand at least?
But no, my question is reading means only reading or getting out of it is also
Reading an article is an art. Yeah, reading an article is an art. What to read, what to leave in the beginning, and then gradually moving to the right thing, that's an art. But that's the number of articles you will read, because if you are reading the latest research that is happening in your area, only and only then you will be ahead of your supervisor. Only and only then you will be able to say, you know what, I know this and let's try this. And your supervisor will say, oh my God. That oh my God should come out from his or her mouth when you are.
Sometimes it doesn't come out. Oh my God.
Yeah.
We try.
But don't worry.
Yeah.
Never get disheartened. You know, we are like dogs. We go wagging our tails to our master to get recognition. And when that recognition does not come, or when that sweet bit does not come, we feel very disappointed. PhD is one time when you should not. You should take every hit possible during this time, because this time, if you take all the hits, when you start your career, you will be very well off, much better compared to others. Much better compared to others. So as much as we want our supervisors to be very engaged with us on a daily basis, my advice to you is that is not the right thing. That is not the right thing. You should be the people who should go and feed the supervisor instead of the supervisor feeding you. PhD is one degree where spoon feeding is totally prohibited. If you are being spoon-fed, and if you like being spoon-fed, your PhD is a disaster. I'm sorry. I want to be blunt about it. Your PhD is a disaster if you are being spoon-fed. On the other hand, if you are taking measures and your advisor is challenging you on those issues, and you have confrontational discussions on issues, not on personalities. There's a difference between confrontation, not on personalities, but on real issues, then you are on the right path. Make sure you are taking care of your courses early as much as possible, because this is a coursework-based PhD over here, right? Try to get the coursework away as much as possible. But at the same time, my personal advice to you all is, by the end of your first year, start reading literature related to the area you are interested in doing your PhD research. That's necessary. What happens most of the time is people wake up to start reading literature when? After comprehensive. And that is the biggest mistake. I mean, you cannot hurt yourself any more than that. And many a times, it is a little bit late. Now what happens? Let's take that as an example, as a cue to go forward. So you start reading literature when the comprehensive is done. And what does your supervisor come and say? You know what? Prepare. Yes. Thesis proposal. And then you are like, so what should I do? What should I write in the thesis proposal? And thesis proposal is a lecture in its own. But, I mean, you are in a very tight spot. You don't know. So you are as if in front of God telling me, oh my God, tell me, what should I do now? No, that should never be the case. Never, ever. So please, for God's sake, don't start. And then what happens? You don't know what paper to read. Eventually, how many papers will you read by the time you are able to submit your proposal? 20? 50 at the most? And getting your thesis proposal in place by reading only 50 articles is a recipe of danger. That means you are hollow, and your supervisor is the one who is telling you, you know what, write this, write this, write this. You are not thinking. You have destroyed your base. You've totally destroyed your base. That's why I'm asking, please, by the end of your first semester, start reading. And it's not necessary that whatever you read is directly relevant to your future topic. You don't even know the topic. How many of you knew your research topic in your first semester? You're blessed. Because there was a clear idea in mind, and there was a consensus between you and your supervisor. There was a clear consensus. It helps. It really helps. Why? Because you can launch yourself. By the end of the first semester, you can launch yourself to start reading. What I also would like all PhD students to do is to start getting engaged in research by the end of your first semester. How many of you do that? Make it a habit. The ideal thing I would like to see in this room is everybody says, I have started being engaged with my research. Why? You know the story of the turtle and the hare, right? So even if you are a turtle, you're guaranteed to win because of your consistency. You develop a pace, you will be able to do. And when time comes to write a thesis proposal, you will be the best person to write it, and write it effectively, write it with confidence, write it the way you want it, and you will be the person who will shape your research and your PhD. And when you will, after comprehensive exams, when you defend, you will be able to say, you know what? I know what I want to do. I know where I'm going. And that is the time when the comprehensive is done and your thesis proposal is defended, you're on the path. And because you're already engaged in research in the lab or whatever way you do, you will be already setting your path. Your remaining 1.5 years or 2 years or whatever time it takes, you will be very relaxed. Else, I guarantee you, you will be stressed, you will be nervous, you will be frustrated. I don't want any one of you to be in that situation. If you start doing things in time, and PhD is one of the things where research should start early. Now most of you will say, you know, I have classwork, how can I do research? Wake up. Wake up. You're not kindergarten or middle school or high school kids anymore. Get your lectures or whatever courses you are taking done within 2 to 3 hours. Divide your work in such a way that each day still you have got a couple of hours to start looking at research. PhD is research. That's why research is so much emphasized in PhD. So if it is so much emphasized, you've got to read a lot about it. Read a lot about it. Okay? Coming to the supervisor-related matter. Okay? That's an important issue, and that's a touchy issue. And it's a frustrating issue also. Developing connectivity with the supervisor. I mean, people are of different opinions, thought processes, mentality. What we sometimes want is they react exactly the way we want them to react. Now remember, your supervisor is your supervisor, but at the same time, he or she is also teaching certain number of courses. He or she is also having some master student. He or she is also a member of several committees, administrative jobs. So there are a bunch of responsibilities on top of which you are a burden. And especially if you are a blood-sucking burden, I will just put it off like that. Try not to be that, because that is one thing that starts the relationship on a little bit sour note. And I'm not saying that all supervisors are 100% willing, ready to be available, helpful, and all those things. I called my supervisor a monster, but I eventually called him as the best mentor I ever had. The thing is that we realize some of the things later. When you go to supervisor all the time with problems, the supervisor will make sure that his lights are off, his door is shut, the shutters are down, and is using only the lamp to do his work. So, develop a positive rapport with your supervisor. You should not appear as a person who is full of problems and he has to or she has to find all the solutions. Haven't you learned from your parents up till now? That they kicked you off when enough was enough? Right? And there were times when the bottle was there, they gave you and you said, no, I don't want it now. And they put it, take it when you want it. And when you got hungry, you took it. Supervisors are also human beings, okay? Think of them as parents. They have their own frustrations. You as PhD students should take on your responsibility and solve 70% of your problems yourself. And solving those problems includes that you are on track. You are on top of what is needed of you. You are totally keeping things under control for your progression. You are navigating it correctly. You are managing your time correctly. That is very important. And then if there are those 30% problems, I tell you, in most cases, the supervisor will be very forthcoming, helping, and constructively making sure that you're progressing. Okay? So, as much as we can call them as monsters, they are not. They are usually decent people. They have taken you. Most of the cases, they will help you out. I give you another small little example. I finished my master's thesis. I gave it to my supervisor, that guy who asked me to come with an escort. I gave it to him. And I said, okay, sir, I'm leaving. So what have you done? I said, this thesis. Okay. Where are you going? I said, I'm going back to my parents. Why? I said, well, there is no answer to that. I have to go back. And he said, have you applied, have you prepared your CV for job? I said, no. And I got a beating on that. And then he said, you're not going anywhere. You will be correcting the thesis of other 4 students in your group. I was the first one to submit. I was so angry. I was so angry, I cannot tell you how angry I was. Because I had my train ticket in my hand. In the evening, I was leaving. And he said, you are staying here for 1 month. And so what he quietly did was, he pushed all his work. Sounds familiar? You see what a big smile comes out. He quietly pushed all his work of other 4 dissertations on my head. I was mad. I went to my dorm. I was really angry. And I got all those 4 people and I blasted at them. Because of you, I could not go. If you were finishing on time, I could have also gone home. Anyway, long story short, it took me 1.5 months, not 1 month, 1.5 months, because each one works with a different pace. And when the 4th guy, finally, I corrected his thesis and submitted, then I went to the professor and said, can I go now? He said, where is the CV? I said, here's the CV, because I knew he will ask for the CV. He said, here's the CV. Have you applied anywhere? I said, not yet. Why? Okay, leave your CV, 1 copy here, and there's 1 job there, and 1 job there, and 1 job there, apply. And all 5 dissertations were submitted, and I went. 11 days later, I got a telegram. And the telegram says, you are hereby invited to join as faculty under that same guy. So on the one side, the horror of that guy was really on my mind. But then I said, wow. What changed his mind? He never told me, because he did not know appreciation. So if you don't get appreciated by your advisor, you never know. 12 or 15 years later, he told me, the reason why I gave you the job was, you had the ability to write a dissertation really nicely, and you had the editing skills, and you had the material for becoming a faculty member. That's why I pushed you to do the extra work, and you did it really great. You reduced my burden quite a lot, and that's the type of people I need as my colleagues. So from a student to a colleague, I know many of you get work from your supervisors, and some of the work has got no relationship to what you do on a regular basis for research, for your bread and butter. Take it always as a blessing. I also know that my supervisor in Sweden always used to come, oh, would you really like to read this paper? And I said, well, this is not an article, this is a manuscript. And I said, okay, I will read it. You never say no to your boss. So, especially when you're a PhD student. And I took it and I read it. And I gave it back to him. I have read it. And he said, no, I didn't mean that. I meant write comments on it. Comments on it? As a PhD student? Anyway, I wrote beautiful comment, 1.5 page, and gave it to him. What did he do? Copy pasted, put it, send it to the journal. That was his review of that paper. Was I a slave? Three or 4 years later, I was doing 90% of his reviews. But my goodness, I became so good in writing reviews that I could pick the paper, quickly go through it, start finding mistakes in it, and the good things. You don't always find mistakes, but so even though he was using me as a bonded labor, I learned a lot from it. I I learned a lot from it. So if you are loaded with things that do not pertain to you, don't feel bad. Just feel that you got a chance to learn something which usually will not come your way. Okay? Another very important thing I used to do for my supervisor, because we are talking about supervisors and we hate our supervisors so much, and love them also. Whenever it came to the time, you know, labs function because they are funded. And funding needs proposals, right? And whenever the funding cycle came and the deadline was like 2 months away, he would go around in the lab and say, hey, it's time soon for writing grant, and let's get together, and blah, blah, blah. And God knows for what reason, crazy mind like me, I was already having some ideas that, you know what, this should be a topic for research. This should be another topic for research. Kept all those things in mind. And when can you get those topics in mind? When you are reading a lot of articles. I told you, 2 steps ahead of your professor. That's how I was able to think of ideas. And around Christmas time, he used to come around 10th of December and say that, okay, I'm preparing for holidays and I'll be gone for 20 days and so and so and so. I don't know what we will submit. The first time, by the time he came back on 6th of January, I had 1 full proposal ready. And he said, oh, you should have gone home and you should have relaxed, and Christmas is for holidays and you should have spent time with family and all those things. And naive as I was, I said, yeah, I should have. But I don't know, something drove me and I was alone. So I just kept working, and anyway, he took that proposal. If you want, okay, I will submit it. I was so excited, my name will be there. He filled all the forms, and I kept waiting on my table that when will I sign? I was so excited to sign my first proposal that I'm writing myself. 1 day went away, 2 days went away. Deadline went away. And he said, proposal is submitted.
Approved.
No, I said, proposal is submitted? I didn't sign. Then I thought maybe it is online system of something, so it was submitted online. No, it was not online, it was paper. I'm talking about 1990. It was paper. So I said, can I get a copy of the proposal? So I was being sneaky, okay? I was being sneaky because I wanted to see it. So the secretary gave me the proposal. And the signature was... My name was somewhere in the back. That he will be the PhD student in this program. Halas. Imagine what a terrible day that was for me.
Yes.
What a terrible day that was for me. I could not do work. I just went home, I ate and I slept. Next year, I did the same and the same fate. Last year of my PhD, because I took a very fast track in Sweden. I said 7 years, but I finished it in 3 years. I again did the same. Would you believe, and I'm not boasting over here, it's just telling you that all 3 proposals got funded. I didn't get anything.
Your name was on the top.
Yes, on the back, somewhere. Few years later, as soon as I finished my PhD, I was a faculty member in the same place. I became an associate professor within 2 years after that. And I wanted to write that I wrote proposals and they got funded because it matters a lot. But I could not. I could not because they were not as me as the principal investigator. So, what lesson did I get out of it is much more important than the story. The lesson is, I took it this way. I got an opportunity to do something. I created something, I worked hard, I was ahead of my professor, I could write grants, which he received funding for, but I learned how to do it so good that they got funded. So if you are burdened with even things like, okay, can you do literature search on this topic? And you feel, well, this is not my topic, come on, don't give that work to me. That's a human normal reaction. Don't. It's just like I was reviewing his article, I was also writing his proposals that got funded. Boy, I got a lot of experience which otherwise I would not have gotten if he was so good that he could do all those things by himself. Again, like always, I took it as a blessing. Thank you, God, you gave me a chance that my professor was of this type and I was 2 steps ahead, that's why I was able to do things. So there are many, many moments when you start feeling that my professor is not A, B, C, D, E, F. But always try to see that behind that, what is the thing that is positive for you. So the thing that goes a very long way in a PhD is a positive attitude. A real positive attitude. There will be moments when you feel broken. Take a pause, get up again, get going. Because there is a goal, a milestone has to be achieved, you have to reach there, there is a fixed time, you don't have time to sit down and cry. Okay? You don't have time to sit down and cry. The only time you have is to put in your not 100% effort. PhD needs 200% effort. PhD really needs 200% effort. Right in the beginning, chalk out that this is what it is. Start working right early in the beginning. Make sure that when your proposal is to be prepared, 1 year ahead of it, you have read so much that you start designing the proposal and you can sit face to face with your supervisor and can argue that no, this way it will be better. These are the type of students supervisors typically like and at the same time respect. Now that guy whose manuscripts I was correcting and whose proposals I was writing got so much, I shouldn't use the word, but I'm using it in a loose manner, dependent, but at the same time, he respected me so much. In Sweden, what happens is, when the PhD is done, the university gives a party. And in the evening, there's a big celebration. And in that celebration, I was thinking of packing my bags from Sweden and leaving. And when his speech came, he immediately announced that Dr. Bhanu Chaudhary, because the PhD was done, is hereby, I invite him to join my lab as senior researcher effective tomorrow morning. Hard work always pays. Don't feel bad that you are overloaded. A lot of PhD students all the time complain, oh my God, that's a lot. Oh my God, this is too much. I cannot take it. Learn to take it. Learn to take it. Tell yourself, no, I chose to do the PhD. Nobody was coming from somewhere asking you, please come and do PhD. You chose to do the PhD. You should have that grit, that determination, that will, that desire, that I will do it, come what may be. Even if I fall, even if I get scratched, even if I break my bones, I will still get up and keep walking. I sometimes call PhD as a battlefield. And when you are in a battlefield, yeah, she's saying, yeah, that is. When you are in a battlefield, one thing you don't do is turn your back. You cannot afford to turn your back. As soon as you turn your back, you'll be shot from that side, and then you'll be shot from the other side too. Okay? So don't worry. Everyone is in the same boat. And success is the only option. Okay? Success is the only option. And when success is the only option, hard work is the only option. Okay? This is not, PhD is not for those who have weak heart. Typically, people do not fail in a PhD. But let me remind you one thing as a word of caution. I have seen examples where students, when they defended their dissertation, they failed. I'm not scaring you, but I'm telling you a reality that can happen. Did you come here to fail?
No.
So, go and go with a thrust. Remember one thing. Your PhD will get you a job. Okay? And that is the reason why it is so important. My master's got me a job. My PhD got me another job. And it came like that. So make sure your PhD is so good that when you prepare your CV close to your PhD and you send it out internationally, people look at it and say, I want you to come to my lab. That good should be your CV, and it can be only and only and only if you have the right number of publications. Number doesn't matter. Quality matters. Quality matters. And when I'm talking about 3 minimum publications, I'm talking quality tagged very high to it. There are some people over here who try to write reviews as a PhD student. Totally against it. How much do you know to be able to write a review? Reviews are written by people who know the subject matter inside out and have the ability to stand up and talk to others. As PhD students, we are learning. We are still learning. Don't make review articles as your article for PhD. That's a sham. I call it a scam. So if it ever occurs in your mind, this should resonate with you that no, that should never happen. Okay. Are you awake?
Very much.
Very much?
Yeah.
I'm happy to answer questions. Shoot. Okay, let me ask you one thing. Did you get motivated or depressed? Both. No, don't get depressed. There's no chance. I mean, you can't. You get depressed, you can't move. You can't move, you won't succeed. But you have to equip yourself with a lot of tools, both mentally. Yes, I need to touch on that balance. That balance is very, very, very important in PhD. Please, for God's sake. PhD does not mean that it is work and nothing else. Also, if you think that it is work and few parties in the evening, no, still not right. You have to find that right balance. you should find time at least 3 times a week to do rigorous cardio exercises. Why? It takes away a lot of stress. You should have a social life also. And when I say social life, then don't go away for 5 days and suddenly when you come back, oh, on my table there is so much. No, there has to be a balance. My philosophy of PhD when I was doing was work very hard, party hard. So I used to take breaks of 5 days, but I was able to take it because I worked for 12 days hard. Okay? Okay, go ahead, quick.
It's very difficult for me to narrow down a topic. Let's say I'm starting with a topic, so the scope is very huge. I cannot narrow down it. So is there any way to narrow down to a specific position?
I'll give a very quick, brief answer, okay? Firstly, for God's sake, read a lot, okay? And I'm sure when you read a lot, there will be so many possibilities that come your way, okay? From those possibilities, you will have to check what is possible to do here because of the lab, because of the facilities. And the next thing is that will I be able, a lot of us get excited when choosing a topic, and sometimes we underestimate the amount it'll take to do it, and then we take a bite that gags us.
That's what the problem is.
Yes. So, quietly put together things that you would like to do. From that, narrow down the ones that are doable, and then sit down with wise people, like your supervisor, because he or she knows that this is doable or not, and then narrow it down and see what can be done. Now, how to make it better? From there on, you can make it. You can add value to it always. Okay? Because if you want to use an instrument that is available only in Berlin, then
just dream about it.
No, not dream about it. Keep the dream alive, because you can go for a few months to another place and work. All PhD students. All PhD students. You can go. So but find that right balance. Balance between what I can do, no compromise in quality. It should still be not researching, but a new dimension to that research. You're not repeating the experiments or not doing what somebody in Korea has already done or in USA has already done. No. Remember this thing, that please don't do experiments or don't do research for your PhD that somebody has already done. Don't. Even if you say that, okay, now I'm doing this work in UAE, or this is being done for the first time in the Arabian Peninsula. Unless Arabian Peninsula adds value, or the population that you have picked from here adds new information to that, then it's okay, but don't. Did you get my answer?
I have a question. I want to hear your comment about how much time played the role to be called a successful PhD. Should we be in a rush to say that, oh, we need to finish PhD in 3 years, or the time or the quality we can stay with our advisor? I think that I should stay with him more because this is the last opportunity to be a student. I want to stay with him one more year, one more semester to publish one more book. Is this a good approach, or should we? So no, we should finish our PhD in 3 years.
I would say 4 years.
Yeah.
Because 3 years is a rush.
Yeah, 3 years with coursework.
3 year is a rush and a pressure.
Yes.
And 3 years is like I have a plate full of food and I'm just putting it inside and then having problems later.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay? Neither the food is digested, nor I'm assimilating anything out of it. No. On the other hand, if you are putting in 16 hours every day and you are able to do things that are needed in a 3.5-year period, kudos to you. I applaud you for that. But that is in your hands. But thinking that I will write one more publication with my supervisor, forget that love affair completely. I don't believe in it. I don't believe in it. Better go somewhere else. That work that you have done nobody can steal from you. It will still be there for you, but go on the next path. Go on the next path. Remember, your PhD is a gateway for your postdoc and for a job. Do it so good. Yes, ma'am.
So when you said that the PhD student should not write review papers, does it also include literature reviews?
Exactly, that's what I was saying. Literature review is a part of a thesis. I mean, that's a chapter, but it's not an article. That review is being done for the sake of you having a better understanding of the subject matter. So you have not understood the subject matter so very well that you can convert it into an article. 5 years down the road, or 3 years down the road, when you have published a little bit more, you can use part of that material in preparing something that is useful for others. That I agree. Yes, sir.
Victor, I would like to know, first, thank you so much for the valuable lessons. I would like to know how can I deal with, this is what I face at least once a week, deal with the people who always questions and criticize my choice of place to do PhD. They always come and say, why here? I know it's always a downer. I mean, it's as good as any other place. So.
Okay, so I have told it to a few of you. I had my PhD dissertation ready on the table back in India, and I decided to leave it there, thinking I'll come one day and finish it off. And I went to Budapest, Hungary. Is there anybody from Budapest, Hungary over here? No, nobody. I was being cautious. No. And I went there. And people were mad at me that, are you crazy? Where are you going? It's a communist country. You'll be buried over there. And you will not find this, and you will find, sometimes people are ignorant. Okay? Sometimes people are ignorant and they can pass judgment on you. The biggest and the most important question is, are you confident? Are you confident about your choice? If you are not confident about your choice, better walk out. Better walk out. So, a lot of people questioned me over there that, why are you trying to fall into a ditch knowingly? And I did fall into a ditch. But then I found some good people also. And I started my second PhD over there. It's a different story that after comprehensive, I left. I did.
So from India, you went to Budapest, and from there you went to Sweden. So
in Sweden, I did. I finally did.
So it's the third PhD.
That was my third.
So that one is the third one. Okay.
So, but I tell you one more thing. I was at Texas A&M about 5 years ago. Okay, I was there for 15 years, and I took a job in our neighboring country over here, Qatar, as Associate Vice President for Research. Everybody at A&M and everybody who I knew were mad at me. Where are you going? What are you doing? And there is no veterinary. I'm a veterinarian, okay? I'm a genomics person and a veterinarian. That this is the first time you are venturing out into something different. And I said, no. I know where I'm going. I know what I want to do. And from there, I moved over here. And people still question. The question is, am I enjoying my job? And enjoying the job is not having the salary in the pocket. Enjoying the job is, what difference can I make to this community? There comes a point in life when that satisfaction is much bigger. But in your case, you're building your life, right? Make sure that you do so good that the mouth of all those people are shut. That is your responsibility, that you do so good. So people will always say whatever they want to say. When I use the word victorious in the title, you have to come out victorious and you have to find those ways. Don't depend on anyone else to find those victorious ways. You have to find it. And the best answer is, here is my dissertation. It has this quality. It has resulted into these many publications. These publications are in these important journals. Nobody will say a word. Where you go from here will determine what they say. Yes, ma'am. 2 more questions only, okay? Quickly.
In plain speaking, we have the academia in the university, professors here, and the industry where people are actually doing research. It's different. It's like a disconnect between the two. So when you are looking into your narrowing down on your thesis, you really want to be practical, relevant, and up to date, so that you can be in touch with the industry and do something there. So how do you develop, or how do you make mentors who are actually doing the real stuff in the field, or who are actually in the industries? How do you develop like communication channels or something so that you remain relevant? Because sometimes, no offense to your professors, but they might be a little outdated or not helping you much in the area where you want to be. So,
that's a good question. How will you resolve it? Let me see if you are thinking. How will you solve this problem? That, industry is much more important. It is indeed important. And doing work that is of practical significance is very important. Okay? There should be some application. Okay, you have created another PhD. Is there an application of it? That's a big question mark. How would you try to add value to your research so that when you are thinking, you have an extra head that can help you? And that extra head should come from the industry. What is the place?
Visiting conferences.
For me, what I usually do is I have to try, I have a lot of friends and they are doing either PhD, they're in the field themselves, so we gather and we discuss so many things.
That is one way.
Yeah.
Conferences.
Conferences and workshop is another way to interact.
Getting summer internships.
Reading.
Summer internships, going and working in another lab in another country or the industry is another way. Collaborators is another way. One very straightforward way is you have your PhD committee, right? And how many members? 5?
5, yes. Supervisor, co-supervisor.
And you have the possibility to have one person, and that person could be from industry. And people from outside your area add a perspective typically you don't have within academia. I am always proposing students to find additional committee member from outside the college. I mean, inside the college it's inbreeding. And sometimes politics.
Yeah.
I didn't say it, okay?
Yeah.
It's there.
I have one question.
Have I answered your question?
yes, thank you.
Okay.
If our supervisor doesn't agree on that one, and if he or she recommended that person should be your external committee member, something like that, then and if you want someone else, then what will be the situation? Like if you want someone from industry and if the supervisor doesn't agree and he wants someone else.
Yeah, this is a very common that supervisors try to impose their
Some
things are already decided.
Sometimes things are previously decided.
Then when things are being decided, that is the time for you to say that when the committee is being formed. Remember one thing, when the committee is formed, you are a partner. You are not a bystander. Know your rights. Know your rights. You are an equal partner. And this, of course, don't fight, okay? Sit amicably, present yourself and say, I would like to have But go with a justification. And if you propose somebody, it should clearly be that that person should add value to your committee. Don't just put a name that because this person, I want that person from industry. No, it doesn't make sense to me that that person should be sitting over here. The person has no business. But when you think about the topic, and that topic is a speciality of that person from the industry, even your supervisor will say, yeah, I'm sorry, I did not think about it, but it does make sense. Sometimes it can happen that he or she has already talked to the other 4 people and they have agreed, so the supervisor is in a little bit of hot spot. That how do I say no to somebody I've already said yes to?
Then you have this.
The earlier this discussion comes up, the better it is. Once the water has come, the tsunami is already there. That's a reality. Anything else? If not, thank you very much. Thanks a lot.